Baldy, the Eagles in that game on Sunday, 42-30. I guess a lot of the attention is on that defensive side of the ball. And when you're watching this team, is anything fixable for Jonathan Gannon's crew, or are they in for a long year ahead?
Patrick Mahomes, who, took one on the chin the week before against the Los Angeles Chargers. He came in looking, to kind of right the ship. They had lost 2 in a row. They turned the ball over a bunch. And so, he was looking for blood. And, he's got all the ability. I mean, it's like they'd never seen a shovel pass before. I mean, he had about 3 or 4 different types, and they burned him on all of them. But that's a really good offensive football team. And so, I kind of understand that. But, the week before against Dallas, I didn't understand their defensive game plan at all. And so, you're going up against good defenses. They don't have the ability to take things away from teams and make them play a different style. They don't have that ability.
Baldy, obviously, you look at losing Brandon Graham and what that means, but ultimately, is that the big problem here, or are their linebackers just not good enough to play this system?
Well, the system is kind of overrated. I mean, the idea is to get to the ball, and then when you get to the ball, whether it's a 3-4, 4-3, whatever, make something happen. Your linebackers have got to be playmakers. They got to jar the ball loose. They've got to rule the middle of the field. The middle of the field is the most prized real estate, in a game. You just can't let things happen over the middle. You got to take the middle away, make them work the edges, where you got the sideline, you get help, you get longer throws, that kind of thing. And they're not doing anything in the middle of the field. And that's the linebackers' territory to make it, to keep teams away from attacking them there.
Yeah, I know that, you're in the red zone. Kansas City is 5 for 5. They go 9 of 10 on third down. And conversely, Philadelphia, they struggled in the red zone, 3 for 6, and their third down conversion rate not as good. So what are some of the things when you watch the film on Nick Sirianni's offense that maybe he could tighten up to help this team out more in that red zone area?
Well, I mean, I think, Dallas Goedert is a guy that they've got to rely more on. I mean, I think he's a legitimate tight end. I mean, I think they've got, 3 or 4 major weapons. I think Devontae Smith can be that guy. Dallas Goedert can be that guy. Miles Sanders can. And, Quez Watkins is getting into the conversation. And so you get down there sometimes. I mean, I remember Kurt Warner told me one time, he said, sometimes you can drop all the red zone plays you want, but it's nice if I can just throw it up to Larry Fitzgerald or Anquan Bolden and let him go get it. And there's some truth to that. You saw last night, Donald Parham scored the opening touchdown of the game on Monday night for the Chargers. He's 6'8". Sometimes just putting the ball on top of the rim, and Goddard can go up and get it, but they don't have receivers like that. And so they've got to win either by quickly separating, some great route running, or great route combinations. And so far, they haven't been great at it. Nothing was worse than the display on the goal line against San Francisco, 1st and goal at the 1. I mean, that was about as bad as it gets. So you got to have a better plan when you get down there. But it always helps if you have big guys that can go get it, or if you can really run it very well. So if you can run it the way the Chargers did last night at the end with Austin Eckler, from the 11-yard line out, that's always the preferable way.
Yeah, there's no question when they can run that game out. Now, glad you led me right into this. Brian Baldinger, Baldy's Breakdowns. Use that hashtag on Twitter at BaldyNFL. He'll call the Eagles and the Carolina Panthers for Compass Media here on Sunday. And Baldy, when you watch their game plan, do they not like Miles Sanders? Do they not trust him? Do they just not like running the ball? They have a weapon that many people think is a good weapon. Are we wrong? Did they not view Sanders the way the fans and the media maybe do?
They must not. It's a great question. I mean, I talked to Miles this offseason, and he had never had 200 carries in a year. He'd been nicked up. So I said, if you give this kid 200 carries, he's going to get you 1,300 yards. I mean, coming into this year, only 3 backs in the NFL had 5 runs or more of 50 yards or more. And Miles Sanders Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, the only three guys that do it. He had a home run hitting ability, but you gotta feed him before he can find that crease where he can go crease a team like that. I saw Chase Edmonds do it last week for the Arizona Cardinals. I saw Ezekiel do it for Dallas. You got to give it to him enough times where all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but you get the opportunities to find out just where that crease is, where you can really hit it 100 miles an hour. They don't give him that opportunity. I mean, his first carry the week before against Dallas was 7 minutes to go in the second quarter. It seemed absurd. So it's not like they're just falling behind and they're not in a position where they can run it. They're in these games in the first half. They just don't. I'm with you. I don't know how they view him, because if they did view him as a guy like I think he is, then they would find ways to give him the ball earlier.
Yeah, because I like, it feels like, I don't know if you're seeing it the same way. It feels like they like Gainwell more. It's almost like we're leaving Sanders out there because he's been here, but we really want to use Gainwell.
Well, that might, I don't know. It seems like he's getting, more opportunities, more series. But, Miles Sanders is bigger and he's stronger and he's faster than Gainwell. And I know Gainwell catches the ball well, but I think, and maybe that's the reason, is that, he's played that hybrid position at Memphis, and, he played in the slot and probably runs routes a little bit better. But it's not like I don't think Miles Sanders has bad hands, though. So, I don't know what the reason is for what you're saying, because you're right.
Brian Baldinger, Baldy's breakdowns. He'll call the Eagles and Carolina Panthers. How about this Carolina Panthers team that we're going to see? Very good defensively. They lost Horn, and they got carved up a little bit against Dallas, which a lot of teams are. That Dallas offense seems, Baldy, to be pretty legit. But what type and style of fight will the Eagles be in down in Carolina?
You're going to see some elite players. Brian Burns, even in the Dallas game, I don't know about some of the calls that were ruled. They got the ball out of the Cowboys' hands a couple of times. They are fast, play fast. Brian Burns is an elite player. Derek Brown is an elite player. Jeremy Chin is an elite player. They traded for C.J. Henderson from Jacksonville, who was the first corner taken in the draft 2 years ago. Urban Meyer just never liked him, so he wasn't playing. They were playing rookies in front of him. But that guy can, you'd like your corners to be more physical than he is, but that guy can cover and run with any receiver in this league. He can do that. But you're going to see a defense that has got some great players. And Phil Snow, the defense coordinator, you guys all remember him from Temple, he dialed up some pressures that Dallas had trouble with, that New Orleans could not figure out. You better have your protection game down.
Yeah.
Because he's going to get to your quarterback, period. He's going to get free runners to your quarterback, and they've got a lot of defensive players that can do it.
Now, that said, you mentioned having your protection down. Philly, Baldy, had to go with 4 new linemen last week. Now, we saw that a lot last year, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
It seemed that they did a much better job this time around.
Well, Nate Herbig is and Jack Driscoll in their second years now. So they went through, a season where they played last year. Nate Herbig started 12 games for them. And then they had the off season with Jeff Stoutland and the program. And so they're not rookies anymore. I thought Jack Driscoll was a quality backup player a year ago. I thought Nate Herbig could play center or guard. They're not Pro Bowl players, but they can line up and play.
Yeah.
But, this offensive line has been gutted in the first month. I never would have thought it was gutted. Now, I don't know what Lane Johnson's situation is. It's still a little confusing to me. But, you got to get him back in there. They don't have anybody that can play like that.
Hey, Baldy, real quick, Darnold obviously was a high draft pick. He didn't do very well with the Jets. They ended up moving on from. What are you seeing from him? Because obviously the Eagles' defense has had their hand. They've given them 83 points the last 2 weeks. Now they played Kansas City and Dallas. Will they have their hands full with this Carolina offense?
They can. The offensive line isn't as good as the lines that Philadelphia has seen the last 2 weeks. That guy that was going up against Fletcher Cox, Trey Smith, that guy's got unbelievable potential. Their 6th-round pick out of Tennessee. Dallas' offensive line with Zach and Tyron Smith back in there, they're elite. They won't see an offensive line like that. So I think Carolina has an average offensive line at best. So they got to win in the trenches, because if you can get to Sam and hurry him up like last week, he can throw you a couple. And he did last week. I don't know, the first play was zone coverage. I don't know what he was trying to do to Robbie Anderson. And the last one was just a great play by Trayvon Diggs. But, they've got great speed at receiver, and they've got some talented guys there. But, without Christian McCaffrey, this is not, a dynamic offense.
I know that a lot of people will look at this NFC East and say, it's Dallas. It's clearly Dallas, right? They are clearly the best team in this division, and maybe Baldy in the NFC now.
Well, they're an elite team. They're very well coached. The one thing that you can say about Dallas, they draft unbelievable. I mean, Micah Parsons, Osa Odigizua, you're looking at all their receivers, all their tight ends, all their running backs, Pollard. You're looking at Trayvon Diggs, who's the defensive player of the year in the first month. I mean, they're all homegrown. It gets them into trouble because they can't keep them all, they can't pay them all, but they draft well, and it shows up. But I'll say this. While Dallas looks like the cream of the crop right now, the Giants put their offense together for the first time with Kadarius Toney and Galladay and Rudolph and Saquon healthy. They played a very good game against New Orleans. Now, I don't know. They play Dallas this week.
Yep.
Anything can happen. I wouldn't count the Giants out. Like that team looked much, much better offensively than they have in the last couple of years last week.
Brian Baldinger, he'll call the game on Sunday. Eagles and Carolina Panthers for the Compass Radio Network, followed by the Dallas Cowboys and the Giants from Compass. We'll have both those games for you right here on 97.3 ESPN. Follow him at Baldy NFL to get his Baldy's breakdowns and check out all the key plays that he was breaking down this week. Eagles, Panthers. Baldy, always a pleasure, man.
Thank you. Anytime.